You're watching CBS Sports HQ, presented by FanDuel. You're getting a look at Pete Prisco's top coaching candidates. And this is in no particular order, by the way, but we have Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel, and Joe Brady making it on Pete Prisco's top list. All right, let's welcome in Pete, because Pete, we got to dive into these head coaching openings. We're going to play NFL Matchmaker, if you will. But before we get to that, we want to get to your best head coaching opening that is out there, in your opinion. And that one is in Duval County. And I agree, of course, but there's some haters out there that'll say it's not the Jacksonville job, even because Trent Baalke is still there. But why is it the top job for you right now?
Well, in large part because you have an owner who's willing to spend. All you have to do is look at all the money Trent Baalke wasted in free agency over the course of the last year, and you'll see he's more than willing to go out and spend his money. They have a new stadium on the horizon. They have a brand new facility. There's no state income tax. And you have a roster with a quarterback who I think can be a big-time player if the right offensive guy gets in there to build it around. So not only that, you have a top 10 pick, and you have 10 picks in this draft, in a lot of them in the premium round. So it's a great opportunity for somebody to step in there and fix it. Now, if Trent Baalke is there, is that a problem? Is that going to hold people back? And the answer to that question is probably, if he is the full-time general manager, it will. If he's only there to help the process and maybe not be the full-time general manager, then it won't. But that's clearly, to me, it's the best job of all of them. And I think people are going to look at it that way.
Pete, we know that you have, the finger on the pulse when it comes to the Jags fan base over on X. So Schrager was tweeting out, Jags should hire Pete Prisco in some football star role. It is time. We know you're the mayor of Jax, as we like to call you. With Trent Baalke, if he's there for a year, are you going to go in there and be the head coach for a year, or take any sort of job in Jacksonville with Trent Baalke there for a year?
Well, I would get rid of Trent Baalke tomorrow afternoon if they hired me. I mean, that would be a no-brainer. He'd be out the door, and should be out the door. I mean, the guy, this will be his, if he hires the coach, it's his third coach. Think about that for a second. He also had 2 #1 overall picks, and look where this team is. I don't know how they can keep him around there. It makes no sense to me. So, yes, if they hired me to do any job where I had the power, I would make a change and bring somebody else in.
Would you be the head coach? I feel like you'd be a great head coach, Pete. No?
No. I could never do that, but I could be a personnel guy, and I would be a personnel guy. But I don't want to deal with all this stuff. If the guy's driving around late at night and something happens to him, I don't want to have to get the call at 4 o'clock in the morning to deal with that. So I don't want to deal with that stuff. But when it comes to personnel, I'd love that opportunity.
All right, Jags, listen up. Pete Prisco would love a personnel opportunity. Let's play Matchmaker, though, Pete. We're getting a look at the coaching carousel here. And, of course, with the Jags, the Patriots, just those are the most recent ones. But I did a segment a couple weeks ago where BMAC was making a case for Ben Johnson for him to go to the Chicago Bears. And I was over here by myself. I could have used you. I was saying, no, he's going to go to Duval. He's going to go to Jacksonville. And you kind of tend to agree that that could be a good fit.
It would be a great fit, and I think it's a fit that Ben Johnson would love to have. Again, the problem is Trent Baalke. Would Ben Johnson want to go work for Trent Baalke? And from what I hear, the answer to that question is no. But if Trent Baalke is there and does the interview process and they give him the power, which is what I hear, and the coach is going to have the power, then maybe Ben Johnson can go in there, wow Shad Khan, and then say, look, I need a personnel guy I trust, and get one of his guys in there. So I do think it's still possible if he goes through with the interview process. He would be the #1 candidate on any list. A name to keep an eye on is Mike Vrabel if Trent Baalke is there. Those guys are close. So I do think Ben Johnson's still in play if he goes through with the interview process.
All right, let's talk more about Vrabel, because, potentially they're in Jacksonville, but the big move that a lot of people are anticipating is the Patriots hiring him after they moved on from Gerard Mayo. It feels like a duh fit there, but talk more about that. Do you agree with Vrabel going to New England?
This league is amazing. A guy gets fired one year, and the next year he's the hot commodity, and everybody wants a piece of him. And look, they look at Mike Vrabel as a leader of men, and that's what he is. He will go in there and instill his culture, a tough guy culture, wherever he goes. New England would make a lot of sense. He's one of the old Patriots guys. He knows the Patriots way. He learned that being a player there. So it would make a lot of sense in New England. I think ideally they looked at what was happening with him getting these interviews, particularly with the Jets, and they looked at it and said, hey, wait a second, why don't we look at him and make a change? You know, if we're going to make a change with Mayo and get him out and he's available, why not go get Mike Vrabel? So I think Mike Vrabel's at play, not only in New England, but the Jets, Chicago, and Jacksonville. I think he's in play in all those places.
Yeah, to your point, he was, Coach of the Year back in 2021, gets fired as a consultant, and now is at the head of the list for these coaching openings. Let's talk about the Saints, because, of course, they fired their head coach on November 4th. And this is a little bit of a plot twist, Pete, as to who you think could be a good fit there for the Saints.
Well, I think there's a couple of people that could be good fit, and the long shot fit would be Mike McCarthy. And if Mike McCarthy has this window, his contract expires, if the Cowboys don't do something, he could talk to other teams, and if he talks to other teams, he was once the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. And that's where I met Mike a long time ago when he was working for Jim Haslett. And so he does have ties to that organization. The problem is whoever takes that job has to be patient. You look around, their cap is a mess. Are you enamored with the quarterback and Derek Carr? That's another question. And then you have a lot of age starting to creep in on the defensive side of the ball. So it's not going to be a quick fix for whoever takes the job, but there is a link there for Mike McCarthy. Another name to keep an eye on there is Aaron Glenn as well, who is coming off a heck of a performance Sunday night.
Let's talk about the Bears, because, of course, they have Caleb Williams there for the next head coach to mold and grow, and they end the season on somewhat of a high note. They snapped their losing streak. They beat the Packers for the first time since, 2018. Who makes sense there as a fit for the Chicago Bears?
Well, I think Ben Johnson could be in play there as well, but the name you keep hearing a lot of is Brian Flores, along with Mike Vrabel, and Brian Flores has ties to Ryan Poles, the general manager. They were teammates at Boston College, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because we don't really know who's calling the shots. It looks like Kevin Warren, the team president, is, and Ryan Poles might not be, so I don't know how that influences that kind of decision with a guy like Brian Flores, who he played with at BC. But if there's an influence from Ryan Poles, I think Brian Flores would make a lot of sense. And I do think Brian Flores will be a better coach the second time around. I think he learned a lot when he was with the Miami Dolphins. He learned that he can't be Bill Belichick. You got to be yourself. Now, he's a tough guy as well, but you can't imitate the guy you learned from. So many coaches in this league have tried to do that, and they've done nothing but fail. So next time around, I think Brian Flores will be more like Brian Flores, which is still a tough, hard-nosed coach, but less like Bill Belichick.
All right, finally, let's talk about the Jets. This was the first head coaching opening that we saw in the NFL after they fired Robert Saleh after Week 5. A lot of question marks, a lot of things up in the air. We don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. This is a team that had a lot of high expectations coming into the season, Pete, but who makes sense for you for this opening?
Well, I'm going to mention Aaron Glenn's name again, and he played for the Jets. Yep. He was also with the Saints, so it makes sense in both those spots. And you know, the Jets need somebody that's going to change the feeling in the building. The problem with that job is you have an owner that's a meddler, and if you're the head coach, do you want to take that opportunity? This is going to be your opportunity to take that job with the Jets when you have an owner that is so involved and so active in the process. But, you know, Glenn is a former Jets player, so he knows what it's like to play in New York. He knows what it's like to deal with that media, and I think that would be a guy I would look at if I were the New York Jets.
Pete, we certainly appreciated going through the NFL coaching carousel and playing matchmaker, if you will, with all the top candidates out there. Hey, Jacksonville Jaguars, if you need someone in a personnel role,
Pete Prisco
is your guy. All right, please look ahead to the playoffs. Make sure you stay locked into CBS Sports HQ. We have everything you need all season long. News, highlights, scores. It is all here, and it is all for free.